Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
The Stock Movers Podcast, your roundup of companies making moves in the stock market, harnessing the power of Bloomberg data.
Let's take a look at some stocks on the move this past week because there was a lot going on. With us is Bloomberg News cross-asset reporter Denitsa Sikova. Where shall we begin?
Let's start with one stock in the Magnificent Seven that didn't enjoy the rally we're cheering. It's Apple. We had the earnings report, much awaited, but it didn't fail to soothe the biggest concern investors have. And of course, this is tariff costs and a slowdown in China. Apple expects $900 million in higher costs from tariffs. Apple received at least 2 downgrades on Friday. So we got the earnings report Thursday, Friday, 2 downgrades. One of them is coming from Jefferies. Stock is now underperformed. And this is one of the rare bears when it comes to Apple. The company is saying tariff impact will expand over time to create more earnings downside. We also saw a downgrade at the Rosenblatt Securities. The stock is now neutral from buy. Shares fell about 2% this week, which compared to the 3% surge of S&P is quite a lot. And year-to-date losses are extending to about 18%. So a pretty rough start of the year.
Considering the drop that it had on Friday, that's not so bad for the week overall, right?
No, but considering the move we saw in Magnificent Seven and the NASDAQ, it's definitely lagging behind.
Right. It's notable. Okay. What about in the healthcare space? I feel like there was a lot going on this week.
Right. We're talking about war when it comes to those weight loss
drugs, right?
Yes, exactly. It's the competition is heating up and things are not so pretty. Eli Lilly.
Or GLP-1. What did I call them? HG1?
Yeah.
I'm just making up drugs. No, they're GLP-1 drugs. Go
yes,
ahead.
exactly. GLP-1. So Eli Lilly had a pretty tough week. It dropped about 7% this week. Of course, the big hit came on Thursday when we got those news from CVS announcing a plan to drop its blockbuster weight loss drug Zepbound and making their rival Wegovy more widely available. So it's an interesting thing that actually the Novo drug, which is Wegovy, is more expensive. It's around $1,300 for a month of supply, while Eli Lilly's Zepbound is cheaper. But this is where Wegovy becomes more competitive because they have they can lower the prices. They have more negotiation power over here. And what we've seen this week is a tough start for Eli Lilly, which actually year to date still is up 7%. It had a very strong start of the year, but we're seeing that war heating up and putting pressure on Eli Lilly.
Our Madison Muller has been doing, the whole team, the healthcare team, but we've talked with her about it in terms of a price war among these GLP-1 drugs. I have to say when it comes to drug pricing and the negotiations, I never quite get, okay, so it's better to come in higher and then I guess you have more room for negotiating. Like that whole thing with PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers and stuff, I just don't get. I mean, just tell us what it costs,
right.
Charge us, make some money on it, and let's move on. That's kind of how I would like to see it. But nonetheless, you saw some big moves on that. Spotify also on the move this week.
Yeah, Spotify is an interesting story of reversal. It started the week on Tuesday with a pretty bad start after the earnings report. It wasn't necessarily such a bad earnings report. We saw a massive growth in subscribers, around 70 million subscribers, but there was a profit miss. This is which was the reason why the stock fell a lot and investors didn't really pay attention to that subscriber number. But then on Friday, we had news that Apple has approved the company's US app update, which is allowing users to access pricing directly at Spotify. So that lifted the stock higher, and Spotify is actually up this week after a pretty rough day on Tuesday. And the year-to-date win is pretty big. It's about 40%. And this comes after 2 very strong years. The company raised prices, but still, it's doing well. It's growing podcasts, YouTube,
So the app is on the Apple app, but you can pay for it externally.
You can use it on the Spotify app, and you can go beyond just Apple Pay, right? You can use more methods of payments.
Which means the other story is like less service revenue potentially, right, for Apple. That's the other side.
Yeah, Apple fell on that news.
As you said.
Look at that going full circle
yes,
here.
All right, so appreciate some movers on the week overall. Bloomberg News cross-asset reporter Denitsa Sikova.
The Stock Movers Podcast from Bloomberg Radio. Check back with us throughout the day for the latest roundup of companies making news on Wall Street. And for the latest market-moving headlines, listen to Bloomberg Radio live. Catch us on YouTube, Bloomberg.com, and on Apple CarPlay and Android Auto with the Bloomberg Business app.